Good evening. I wondered when you might arrive.
So you are the mysterious Octopussy.
And you are James Bond, 007 licensed to kill. Am I to be your target for tonight?
Well, not necessarily.
Hello and welcome to Book versus Movie. This is a podcast where we read books that have been adapted into movies and then we try to decide which we like better, the book or the movie. I am Margot P. of coloniabook.com and this is my good friend and co-host Margot D. of Brooklyn Fit Chick.
Hi, everyone.
Hello, hello, hello. We are back with a very exciting movie, not so exciting book. Spoiler alert.
Oh, boy.
Oh, boy. We're going to get into it. But before we do, yes, this is a podcast where we talk about movies that have been adapted, usually from books. But when the pandemic started, we decided to do a brand new episode every single week. And that means we've expanded what we mean by the term book to mean any literary source. So sometimes we're going to be doing movies that are based on a play or magazine article or a short story, even a poem or a song. Today, though, we are going to be talking, I think this is a short story. We can call this a short story, right?
Oh, absolutely.
It's quite short. And if you have ideas, because we are always looking for ideas, that you would like to share some of your favorite movies that have been adapted from a literary source, there's a few places where you can make those suggestions, meet other listeners of this podcast, and interact with us on the internet.
We have a basic Facebook page. Be sure to like it. All the episodes are posted there first. We also have a private Facebook group, and that's really the best place to interact with the both of us. Yes, we're both named Margot, by the way. Just type in book VS Movie Podcast Group and ask to join. And it is a spot where we really just talk about movies and movie stars and books and things like that. We're on Twitter and Instagram. And at both of those places, it's book versus a movie. You just spelled it all out. And we have an old-timey email, book versus movie podcast, spelled it all out at gmail.com. Please send us your suggestions. And like Margot said, it needs to be something we can get our hands on. That includes the movie. It needs to be streaming on a major app. If it's not, we can't cover it because it has to be something everybody has a chance to see at the very least. And also we have stickers. If you'd like some stickers, send us your address in the email, bookversusmoviepodcast@gmail.com, and we will send them to you.
And if you really enjoy the show and you would like to help keep us in books or movies, you can also support us on Patreon.
We've been doing the show now for, it's 9 years this year. Very, very true. So we have dozens of shows, and it's on our Patreon wall, Patreon. The older stuff is free, but everything that we're putting up there from 2020 and then previous to that is definitely going on the wall. I put a bunch of stuff that we're putting out there. We're streaming out there. Coming up will be Steel Magnolias, Top Gun, Of Mice and Men, Harold and Maude. These are all coming up. They've already been played on the show. They're going to be coming up on our Patreon feed. We have a couple of very affordable options, and it really just helps us get the books and the movies. You know, sometimes we have to ship something overnight from Amazon, that kind of thing. Also, the software for the show. But if money's tight, or you just have too many subscriptions, we totally get that. If you could just leave us a review wherever you get your podcasts, that'd be amazing, especially Apple Podcasts, because they don't make that easy at all. When do they ever make anything easy? But, it really helps us find our people. And we've been finding lots of people lately, and it's been really fun.
It really, sometimes we have these times of the year where we get this influx of new people. It's just so cool. So welcome and welcome back for those of you who've been with us for a while. If you have been with us for a while, you know that we enjoy a certain Mr. James Bond here at Book versus Movie. We really enjoy doing these books. These movies are always a good time. Even the bad ones are kind of good. Mm-hmm. We've talked a great deal about Ian Fleming, but since we do have a lot of new people, we'll just kind of hit the bright spots here.
Yes, Margot. So Mr. Fleming was born in England. He did serve in World War II. He was an OSI agent. He had spent some time in America. He was friends with people like Roald Dahl. He became a writer. He created James Bond. He was kind of this nebbishy guy that created this very sexy hero. But in real life, the man kind of had his demons, let's just say. He drank heavily. He spent a lot of his time. What was the name of the lair that he lived in Jamaica? Like the name of his home?
Oh, yeah. Oh, I've suddenly blanked on that. I'll find it. It's
okay.
Fine.
because the last years of his life were, at a tropical paradise, but the man literally just spent his time just drinking. He had made a lot of successes, but he had also, he wrote constantly, but he also was kind of tough to deal with. But he died of alcoholism in 1964. Relatively young, I would say. And then they've been adapting his work ever since. And it's owned by the Broccoli family, who also, by the way, covered Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, which is our #1 show. I mean, beyond Jaws, Jurassic Park, Silence of the Lambs.
Sure.
Yes, exactly. But yeah, welcome. Come on board. And we do, just like I said, we do kind of a cursory kind of glance at the book and the movie where if we understand people spend their entire collegiate careers just talking about Bond films, or just talking about Mr. Fleming, or just talking about that period of writers that came, out of World War II.
Yeah, I mean, it was an amazing time, a lot of espionage, and he's even come up as a character in some of the movies that we've discussed. I'm trying to think of that one about Operation Mincemeat, where they were tricking the really happened that they got the corpse of the man. Remember that one?
Yeah.
And Ian Fleming is one of the people. He's a kind of a background character in that movie. And there was another movie that we did about World War II that he was kind of a background sort of character. GoldenEye is the name of his estate.
Thank you. I knew it was
Jamaica.
the title of a Bond movie. But he lived there. He drank there. He enjoyed the life there. He lived very hard. He was a spy, technically. Not as dashing as our Bonds that we've seen, but this is a work that was published. It's posthumously. So like I said, he passed away in 1964. This comes out in 1966, and it's a collection of short stories, and it's Octopussy and the Living Daylights.
Is the name of the collection.
It's the collection. There is a story named Octopussy, which
there is.
And I'm not going to promise not to giggle. I can't.
We will be, I'm sure, throughout. So here's the thing. A while back we did The Spy Who Loved Me. Was that the one where the book was so dreadful?
Yeah, The Spy Who Loved Me was
so
pretty
bad.
Nice. Yeah,
it was a terrible book. Yeah, because he was such a commodity, Ian Fleming and James Bond, that they kind of pushed this stuff out. When you read these stories, they're not, in my opinion, they're not like terribly, I was going to say good, but they're not really, it's not fair because they're not complete. They're not really completely fleshed out. And you can tell when they're underdeveloped.
Right.
They're not quite, they don't quite have the flourish of a Casino Royale or a On Her Majesty's Secret Service per se. Mm-hmm. You could definitely tell it's Ian Fleming, like there's some stylistic stuff there, but this is another one, again, and along the lines of The Spy Who Loved Me, where James Bond is sort of like it's not really about James Bond.
No.
He's sort of just like an incidental character.
Right. Well, so it's post-World War II. Protagonist is Major Dexter Smythe or Smith. He served in World War II. And then he's a hero. He is a hero in World War II, but he also murdered somebody for some Nazi gold.
Yeah, just
a little morally questionable. Yes. Yeah. He killed a guide, and then it was over a glacier. And then what happens is about 15 years later, they find the body, and they recognize him as the ski instructor that knew our character.
The glacier has melted.
Right.
Thanks a lot, hairspray and car exhaust. And this missing guide comes tumbling out of the glacier, and they are able to figure out that Smith or Smythe was the one who killed him, this decorated war hero who is retired. And I'm sorry, I was going to say he's retired, and he has gained an interest and as a patron of the sciences of what do they call that? Marine biology. So he has a really big interest in marine biology, and he's funded research and stuff like that. And so he's not only a war hero, but he's also now like a hailed philanthropist, supporter of the sciences as well.
And he's living in Jamaica with his
I believe it's Jamaica,
or the Bahamas. I'm sorry, it's in this island paradise. he wanted to leave England behind. So he gets married to a younger woman who's from a good family. Yeehaw, it turns out he's super rich. And she's like, oh, wait, yeah, I hit the jackpot. So they moved to this place. And in the post-World War II of the culture, they were greeted as heroes and they were greeted as part of high society. So they lived it up. They're probably around in their 30s when they get married. Well, by the time they're in their 50s, she dies, and then he's left alone. He's like, I'd say about 56, and he's drinking himself every afternoon into oblivion. He's sad. He's lonely.
Yeah.
He's haunted by what he's done. He's haunted by what he's seen, and he's alone in the world. And he basically...
Except for his little octopus.
His pet octopus. Which I know I have not seen that movie on Netflix that everybody talked about forever and ever.
About the octopus teacher? Is that what it was called? Something like that? Yeah.
Everybody told me to see it. No, I haven't seen it yet. I promise I'll see it. But it's his octopus, and he calls her Octopussy. And he feeds her, and he talks to her, and that's his one friend in the whole world. And Bond comes, and they are chatting and they're talking, and he basically is, the jig is up. We know what's going on.
As soon as he knows that, as soon as it's announced that Bond is there, he's like, well, here we go.
I've been found
I
out.
guess it's time to pay the piper. Yeah.
Right. And so he's paying the piper. He's hunting for this scorpion fish to feed Octopussy, and he gets stabbed by the scorpion fish, and he realizes, oh crap, I have like 15 minutes to live. And as he's kind of figuring it out, he dies, and the scorpion is then eaten by Octopussy, or?
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
I think so.
And then when they find his body, the people of the town, like, they take the body away and then they eat the octopus. and James Bond looks at the file, and it says that he died of accidental drowning. But Bond wonders, did he die by suicide? Did he make this happen?
Correct.
Because he would have known
rather than
better.
face the disgrace of having to pay for all the things that he did. And the book is a lot of which is not a bad story.
No, it's
better than
fine.
The Spy Who Loved Me. I was telling Margot, like, I got the audio book, and because I had to travel up to Sacramento, which is about an hour and a half trip each way, and I kept falling asleep. It kept putting me to sleep.
I had
there's
the
a lot
book,
of,
and I kept walking. Like, I would go for a walk to get my salad or to get my lunch or whatever, and then I would find myself not even paying attention. Like,
right. And you're like, what happened? And because nothing happened.
Nothing happens.
It's a lot of kind of a reflection of this older former spy who is encountering this young hotshot James Bond. And he, Smythe or Smith, is reflecting on his life as a spy. And like, he sees Bond, he sees Bond asks him a question in a particular way, and he's like, oh yeah, that's how I used to ask the Nazis about such and such. And he sees Bond like, do you have a particular mannerism? He's like, oh yeah, that's supposed to disarm me because I'm supposed to think that such and such. So It's a lot of that. It's a lot of him recognizing that the stuff that he did as a spy, spies are still doing, because this James Bond is showing up and doing the same kind of shtick that he did as a spy. So it's a lot of that. It's a lot of his reflecting on his time in the war and the choices that he's made from a great distance, I would say. It's not that exciting. There's no, even like at the end when he's killed by it's not like this buildup, or it's just a thing that happens. Yeah. I mean, it's okay. If you have trouble sleeping on the plane, I recommend.
Right after
Octopussy and the Living Daylights.
Right. It goes from Octopussy to the Living Daylights to, in the story, the property
in the anthology.
In the anthology. Yeah. The Property of a Lady, 007 in New York. Those are the short stories. So Octopussy that we're walking today, because there's already a movie called The Living Daylights, and that's
out. But we should also mention about Property of a Lady, because this is important to the movie.
Yes.
Which is also not a terribly exciting one. It's about a double Soviet agent who, I forget, she's on behalf of the Soviets, she's like auctioning off some Fabergé
egg
jewelry or an egg. Yeah, at Sotheby's.
Oh, yeah, right. It's actually it's jewelry, but it's crafted by Fabergé. And I think a Fabergé is risky business. Is that the Fabergé egg that he worries about?
Oh, that's right. I've forgotten all
Cruise.
about that. Yeah. When I worked at the Met, we had a big exhibit of Fabergé.
I went to
not
that.
just the eggs, but it was incredible.
Yeah.
And you know who owned a lot of that stuff? I don't know if we brought this up before. Do you know who owned a lot of that stuff?
No.
Joan Rivers.
Wow.
There was a few pieces in the collection that belonged to Joan Rivers. She had an extensive collection of Fabergé for a private citizen, you know.
Wow. I've been in her apartment.
Have you? What was it like?
It was beautiful. She did a documentary.
Yes, I
soon
remember
before
it. It was amazing.
So I was a book party that I was working, and it was at her apartment. She's good friends with him, so I was at that apartment, and it was gorgeous, and she had amazing.
Oh, it looks amazing in that documentary.
Yeah. So that's so interesting. Yeah. So in this story, it's jewelry, but it's by Fabergé, and
correct.
And so she's taking it to Sotheby's to auction it. And Bond suspects that the KGB is involved. I'm looking at it at the Wikipedia
it's a
page
weird
now 'cause I couldn't
story.
understand it.
Yeah, just like the one with Smythe. It's not completely fleshed out, in my opinion. I tried to listen to it, but I could not keep track of the plot. Like, she's auctioning the piece on behalf of the Soviets, but then she's a double agent.
And he'll underbid the item so that it'll spike up in value.
Right. It's something about driving up the currency value. It's weird. I couldn't follow it.
Yeah, it's not great. That's all we have to say. I mean, this came out 2 years after the man died. As we said, he had a drinking problem towards the end. He had a problem. You know, he wasn't in touch with his editor. He was sort of living his own life. So sadly, his talents kind of fallen away. We won't dwell on that. I mean, he's still.
Yeah.
I mean, we loved Casino Royale. We've loved other.
Oh, Casino Royale is great, and I really liked On Her Majesty's Secret Service. I just love the character of Bond. I know he's like a total like pig, but I just love James Bond movies. I find them so fun. But this one, Octopussy, is going to be one very similar. Like
Casino
again, very
Royale,
much
Venice. Sorry. Yes.
Okay, it is Casino Royale. Okay.
Yeah.
So after all that, Octopussy, this is going to be a lot like the conversation we had about The Spy Who Loved Me, because The Spy Who Loved Me was so terrible. It's so bad, you guys. Like, it's almost unreadable. It's the worst one I think I've read of all of these. It's real bad. And so they just basically took the title.
Yeah.
And then they made a fun movie with Roger Moore.
Well, so we should say that this is 1983, and it was called The Battle of the Bonds because there's two different Bond movies in production, which never happens.
So weird.
Which is
Why?
bizarre because
Sean Connery.
It's hard to say because the Broccoli's normally they're really on top of their stuff. Like they put a lock on things, but there's an issue with. There was United Artists and there's MGM Studios. And when they merged, the different production houses had to merge and they had a hard time kind of keeping things in check. So what happened, which is something that never should happen, is you have two Bonds competing with each other. Now, not directly, one's in June, the other comes out in October or November of 83. But still you're creating the competition, right?
In terms of marketing, that's totally at the same time.
How did you market this movie? I mean, it's very strange. So Roger Moore is coming back. I believe this is his sixth time as James Bond. Not a young man, but I have to say
he brings it.
Got it. He looks like he's having so much fun.
He does. Yeah. I just love Roger Moore.
Me too.
I really enjoy his performances.
He just seems like that. Well, so they filmed it at the same time. Mostly in England on same studio lots. I think his Superman 3 was also filmed there. And they were all friends with each other. And they're like, "Isn't this silly? Whatever. What are you gonna do?" And they're just doing their thing. So in this particular version, we are Octopussy, which they missed a great opportunity. I listened to another podcast, and they're like, "It would have been cool if she was the villain." but she's not.
She's not.
Why is she not the villain?
Right?
When you have...
She could so easily have been the villain.
She should have... I mean, this is a very sexy woman. Maud Adams is great. There's a lot... Okay, this movie, there's a problem. Houston, we have a problem. So this movie was made literally 40 years ago. God, I'm old.
True. Oof. Yes. It was made at a time when a Casio watch was like unattainable.
It's also when they're filming in India and they say, who should we cast?
Oh my, yes.
Well, let's look at Indian actresses. Oh, no. They're not famous
would
enough.
We bother doing that? Yeah.
Let's just take Maud Adams and put some dye in her hair and then spray paint her a little with dark makeup.
Little tan.
And they were going to put Faye Dunaway in the part, but they just couldn't afford her. I mean, there's just... So, I mean, at times I was a little like, oh, so all the brown people are bad? And is that the point of this story? It's not.
Yeah, it's not. But there's an element of that. I couldn't find a trailer for this. Did you find a trailer?
Oh, I did find a trailer. You know what?
You found it.
Let's play it. We'll play that trailer right now, and then we'll get right into this story.
Bond hits an all-time high. Roger Moore is Ian Fleming's James Bond 007 in Octopussy. Roger Moore in his newest and most thrilling of the James Bond adventures, filling the screen with excitement. In the tradition of the great James Bond films, Octopussy has everything: elegant palaces and beautiful women.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Name's Bond. I believe you have a reservation for me.
We've been expecting you, sir.
I'm Octopussy, and you are James Bond, 007 licensed to kill. Am I to be your target for tonight?
This is Bond at his best, hitting an all-time high in Octopussy.
Step on it.
The Bond that tops them all.
Follow that car.
Octopussy racing across the screen with thrills and excitement. Roger Moore in his newest James Bond adventure, hitting an all-time high in Octopussy.
Our director is John Glenn, and I'm going to assume that's not the John Glenn.
Not the astronaut.
That landed on the moon. But we have screenplays by George McDonald, Fraser Richard Maybaum, Michael Wilson. Very sorry about that. Roger Moore, Maud Adams, Louis Jourdan. is our
He's great in this. He's our baddie.
who's Kamal Khan. Maud Adams is Octopussy. So she has she's interested in the Fabergé. She also is like a businesswoman, but she runs a cult. It's a little, her status is a little.
It's a little weird. She's a jewel. It's sort of like it reminded me like she's sort of like the head of an MLM kind of thing.
You know, it could have been set in Utah. Yes. This is a cult kind of business thing that you can sign up for.
She's a shrewd jewel thief.
Right.
Who has this devoted following of female jewel thieves who are also sort of like a trained army ninja kind of thing. And they all live on this women-only island. It's
so not quite Paradise Island, like Wonder Woman.
Nope.
But pretty damn cool. I mean, these women are badass. That
they really are.
Which is great. Which
it's very fun. There's a lot of female action fighting sequences with them taking out the bad guys.
Yes, Excellence. I'll join you in a few minutes.
Do you really think you can escape me?
Orloff betrayed us. I swear I knew nothing about the bomb. We're partners, we're friends, Octopussy. I would never do anything to hurt you.
You left me to be killed along with thousands of innocent people.
Octopussy. Octopussy. Look, I was bringing you this. We can make millions.
Take her. She's out. Kick us out of here.
Which is fun.
Which is really fun. We have Christina Wayborn, who's also, I think, Swedish, and they hired her.
Isn't Maud Adams Swedish?
Yes, she is.
Yeah.
Yes, Maud Adams is definitely Swedish. Kabir Bedi. And then we have Stephen Berkoff, who would play Victor Maitland in Beverly Hills Cop, a movie I've seen a million times in my life. And when I saw him, I'm like, oh my God. He's such a great baddie. But he's the Russian person. Right. There's twin assassins, and they're basically, we have clowns, we have airplanes that go through things.
Yeah, just to reiterate, she said clowns.
Clowns.
Ladies
we have
and
clowns.
gentlemen.
He's just as a clown, which
Like,
I know it's. Roger Moore is working in this movie. They are throwing everything at you.
Seriously.
Why don't we make it interesting, Major? A double to 100,000 rupees.
I can't accept. Not with your luck. You win.
Well, I would have taken that double myself.
Then why don't you take over the Major's position? Mr.
Bond. James Bond. Thank you, I'd be delighted.
100,000 rupees, then. 66. It was not such a good double to accept after all, was it?
Double.
Of course. You can only win with a 66. The stake is 200,000 rupees. Do you have the cash?
Well, I think that this should be ample security. Don't you?
play, Mr. Bond. You need a great deal of luck to get out of this.
Oh, luck. Well, then I shall use player's privilege and use your lucky dice. It's all in the wrist. Double sixes. Fancy that. 200,000 rupees. I prefer cash.
Get it cashed for him.
Yes, sir.
Spend the money quickly, Mr. Bond.
I intend to, Kamal Khan. My security. And yours.
Wow. What did Roger Moore do to the stunt director? Because
That guy got hurt.
I'm not surprised.
Yes.
The stunts in this thing.
The stunts are amazing. Amazing in this. And this
they truly are impressive.
right,
I will say that.
Not
yes,
green
they
screened.
are.
I mean, this is the real stuff. But we have Fabergé eggs. We have this gorgeous Indian background, and we have these gorgeous women everywhere, and these hot men. I mean, it's filled with like really interesting people. But he basically, Kamal Khan is an exile. He was an Afghan prince. He's an exile, and then he's playing backgammon, but he cheats. And
yes,
and Bond shows up as, I'll challenge you. He goes, this is what we use for collateral, and it's a Fabergé egg work, and that's how Bond gets together with the guy, and he's figuring out what's going on. Bond gets kidnapped and taken away. He gets too close. Then he meets Octopussy. This is how she's described: a wealthy businesswoman, smuggler, and Khan's associate. So she and Khan are working together, but then
they're business partners. Yes, in jewel thievery.
But he double crosses her because
he's also like an arms dealer or whatever.
Right. He's multi-hyphenates. These people are multi-hyphenates. They got a lot going on. There's a scene where Bond, at first, he's in a gorilla suit for some reason.
Yeah, it's a lot of disguises for Roger Moore in this one.
There's a nuclear warhead
I lost count.
That goes into a train that kind of that shows up at the circus.
Don't worry about it. Just
there's many attempts, then Octopussy tries to kill Khan, but then she gets captured, so then he's got to rescue Octopussy.
I want to mention he has a sidekick for most of the film, Vijay Armitage, whose character is also called Vijay, which is hilarious because he was a very, very famous tennis player. And like globally known. Why? So, I mean, it's funny that they capitalize on that by just having his character have the same first name. So there's no doubt that this is who it is. It's not just that he looks like Vijay Armitage. It's like, just so you know,
right,
this is the real deal guy. And he's actually, I think he's quite good in this.
I think everyone's really good in this.
Yeah.
I do too. I think it's really, we have Q, we have Miss Moneypenny, we have all those things that you always need at a Bond movie. It's exciting. There's a lot going on. I'm not always sure what's happening, but I was totally entertained by it. I think
I'm a little confused by what was that like? It was like a Dodge Dart he was driving around. Like, what was that car he was driving? It was not that sexy a car. This movie suffers a little bit about with the time that it comes out. Like, it's not the greatest fashion. It's not the greatest technology or music. I mean, I love Rita Coolidge. This song is terrible. A goddess.
All I wanted was a sweet distraction for an hour or two. Had no intention to do the things we've done.
This song is not good.
Did you all talk about how they stole Layla from her?
Yes, on What a Creep, when we did Eric Clapton. She wrote that piano part that you hear.
She wrote Layla, y'all.
She wrote that the whole part of Layla that you like the most.
Yeah.
That was hers.
That's Rita Coolidge.
And she never had credit for it. So she's with Tim Rice, or she's with some Broadway crate.
Tim Rice wrote it's Tim Rice. It's not a good song at all.
No, it's nothing. And that's the thing usually with Bond films. They have a good song. You know, it's a big gig. It's a big deal for an artist to be asked to do it because it gets publicity right away. You were going to get
a lot of them made the top 40. You know, a lot of them were charters. This movie, you know, again, like I said, it's not like the most ideal time as far as the technology, as far as the fashion. I think they're making the most of it. But I did feel a little bit like it was a little low budge compared to The Spy Who Loved Me. Like The Spy Who Loved Me, those backdrops and the art direction and the set were so perfectly, you know, disco Bond, 100% like all in. This was like, it was a little stagey. It was a little, I'm not buying these sets. I'm not 100% buying. Like when he's in Khan's lair, it looks like Pirates of the Caribbean. Like, what is this phony baloney?
Well,
yeah, it's some.
What was going on? First of all, Bonds were getting older and they couldn't figure out a young Bond. And then they wanted to use, Timothy Dalton was like on their list and he would eventually play Bond. But they were thinking of, why don't we just hire James Brolin? And they tested him and said, we'll just make Bond American. And that's who will, because he didn't want to do an English accent. And then people kind of slapped him around like, no, that's not Bond. This is what Bond is. The problem with United Artists is that there was a movie called Michael Cimino's Heaven's Gate, which was this Western, and it was a famous failure. Chris Christopherson's in this movie. There's documentaries and there's books about Heaven's Gate. There's another Heaven's Gate, but this is a different Heaven's Gate.
This is a movie.
This is a movie. And some people say it's the most brilliant
I've never even heard of it.
You've never heard of Heaven's Gate? Oh, my God.
I've never heard of it.
It was one of those first big movie failures that like the whole press talked about, and Entertainment Tonight was talking about it every night. So then all of a sudden people were talking about it. Normally people don't care. I just want to see the movie.
And was James Brolin in it? And so they were like, we don't want the stink of Heaven's Gate on our Bond franchise. Is that what happened?
They tested him, and it just kind of looked like Lee Majors in that Stuntman TV show that he did. I seen it, and I was like, oh no, this is not good.
No, he's not Bond.
So there was.
I love him.
I love him too. Look, he married Barbara Streisand. He's doing something right. Also, like I said, there's this Never Say Never Again was also in production. And so people, like I said, they can't really find the right Bond. So like, do we go back to the well? And Roger Moore's like, okay, I'm going to have to get a new rug. I'm going to have to lose some weight, but
I know. You know what? He did it.
He looks great.
We were just saying, you know, before we got on the air that, this movie, again, it's not the same. It's just, I'm sorry. It's just not of the same. And it's not the actor's fault. And it's not even the screenwriter's fault. It's all the sets and all that. It's the production value.
It's a little janky.
Up to par. But the thing still works because Roger Moore is bringing it.
He's funny.
He's hilarious. He's gorgeous.
Yeah.
You know, when I first saw him, I was like, oh, yeah, I forgot how old he was in this one. But you know what? He delivers. Can't argue with it.
You can't. I also,
it's great.
I don't know how they even got away with Octopussy, like being used to this day. But I think the poster for it,
it's a good poster.
It's a gorgeous
I agree.
poster. It makes me want to see the movie.
Indeed.
And I think, like you said, everyone is great. I love the women that are fighting.
The fighting army of Octopussy
Xena
is awesome.
And all the other Wonder Woman and Xena. I mean, this was they're really bringing strong
It's
women.
really well
really
choreographed.
Fighting. Yeah, it was wonderful. It's like when they're on location, you could feel it. But I also think you can feel it when they're on set. And it's something
you totally can.
And that's where I get sensitive too, because for me now, Mission Impossible movies and Bond movies, you need to throw money at it.
You do.
You just do.
You can't just give Roger Moore a damn break.
Yeah.
You can't just like throw him on the back of an airplane and on the back of a train and, expect him to just pull the whole thing along.
No, so there was an injury on the set because his stuntman was hanging on the side of a train, and then he hung on there. There was a miscommunication, and he missed his jump. And he had a broken leg and a broken pelvis, and they had to rehab him and then go back and film some stuff too. So there was a problem with the continuity because the energy kind of was different.
Yeah. This movie, like, there's so much of hanging on, like,
yes,
James Bond's fingertips. I don't know what they're made of. He's got like super glue fingertips.
Like Tom Cruise on the side of a building. Like, I don't know. What is he doing?
For indefinitely, he's hanging on a speeding truck. He's hanging off of an airplane. He's hanging off of a train. He's hanging off of the side of the building. He's hanging off of a cliff, holding on to Octopussy as he manages with just his little bitty teeny tiny fingertips to pull both two full grown adults up the side of a cliff. His fingertips are really
they're pretty special.
Really working overtime here.
It's all a wink and a nod when he's flying the airplane. We know he's not really, but it's still kind of that.
It's still fun. It's still so much fun when he pulls into the little gas station.
Yeah,
the little hillbilly gas station.
It's super, super fun. I mean, I think they just put too much money into both of them. Like, they just had too much time for two different projects and should have like put one off for the other.
They both would have been better films, I think.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But that's not what happened. So this became a summer hit. In '83, people went to the movies all the time, and it's
fun. It's a fun summery movie.
You could
for
have
sure.
your family see this movie in spite of the title. I think it's totally fine.
Yeah, there's no nudity. There's no swear. I mean, a lot of this, like, the thing about Bond is like, for all the the sexy opening with the naked ladies in silhouette. Like, there's
that's as sexy as it gets. That's pretty much it.
That's
the opening credits, and then
cover your kids' eyes for the opening credits, and you're fine.
They'll be fine. But the song, by the way, is All Time High. It's Tim Rice and poor Rita Coolidge, who, by the way, is a genius and deserves better than that. But
yeah, it's just not a good song.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate. And the score, and again, it's also like super relying on it's a little lazy. It's a little lazy on the part of production, not on the part of any of the cast, because the cast are really, it's always impressive. The James Bond performances are always so much fun. But this one, like, every single character, no matter how small, how much little time they're on screen, they're bringing it. And that's what makes it so fun.
Yeah. I mean, when Bond just walks right into a circus, there's a nuclear jet, like a bomb, like coming into the circus. Sure. I don't question. I'm like, all right, okay.
He's clearly got work to do. I'm not going to question it. I'm just going to let him do his job.
I think there's some question about Maude Adams, and some people think she's not a great Bond girl, and some people, she's not a typical Bond girl. I think it would have been more interesting if she were the villain, if she were the true villain.
We forgot to mention the very extremely fragile, misty tie-in to the source material here. Octopussy. So Octopussy, the character, we're told, is the daughter of the man in the story. So the man who's killed by the scorpion fish. And she feels a debt of gratitude to James Bond for sparing her father's legacy, the disgrace of word getting out about, like, the mistakes that he made. And so for that reason, she feels very, very grateful to him. And so she trusts him. Mm-hmm. And so that's how they kind of get together. And then so at a critical moment later on in the movie, she trusts him again. And that's how they save the day with her army of lady ninjas.
but I love them.
Me too.
I thought that was
with
fabulous.
Their totally inconspicuous red jumpsuits, red spandex jumpsuits.
But this is
for
before
camouflage.
Glow. This is before Xena. This is a big deal that they have women warriors that were.
It was.
That they were doing. I think they're fantastic. And Roger Moore is a funny Bond, but I don't mind that.
He's the funniest Bond for sure. He's the one with the best sense of humor.
Right. He drops, he throws quips around and things like that. So, I mean, book versus movie, it's not even close, I think.
No.
It's on HBO Max. How long HBO Max exists? I think it's just going to be called Max soon. I don't get anything anymore.
I don't know.
But yeah,
everything's just Amazon.
It's going to be that Meta.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
Meta. Totally movie. No question. It's super fun. It's a great summer movie.
Yes.
Just don't expect it to be on par with Casino Royale or The Spy Who Loved Me or your best Bond movies. But it's still really good. It's still fun. I feel like Roger Moore, and we said this last time we did Roger Moore, but he gets short shrift in the Bond universe. But that's just his take, and I think it's valid. It's fun. As soon as I watched this. And this is another thing, I had to go back and forth with the apps because Paramount has some of them but doesn't have others. It's very odd. Yeah.
But I went to watch The Spy Who Loved Me again because I need the first 10 minutes of The Spy Who Loved Me to watch that every year.
So good.
It's the best opening sequence. It is.
Agreed. It's so good.
Fabulous song, fabulous stunts. He's funny in that too. The British flag as he's the guy's sky guy. It's
like goosebumps.
Yes.
That one is so good. Yeah.
So if you're looking for a great one, and we did cover that just last year, and that episode is still in the feed.
Movie, not book. Don't read that book. I can't stress it enough how terrible that book is.
Life is short. No. Don't do it.
You'll never get that time back.
Ever. So should we talk about what we're doing next?
Yeah, I'm excited because this is one that's come up several times in our Facebook group over years now. And we've just never gotten to it. But now that we've kind of loosened the reins on what we mean by book, we're going to look at it. We're going to finally do Little Foxes.
Which is
not Foxes, the one with Jodie Foster.
Right, which I would do if that were a book and a movie. I would totally want to cover that. But no, Little Foxes. So it's Betty Davis, which I told Margot, I've never seen this, so I'm excited.
I love this movie. I'm excited to read the play again and watch the movie.
And Lillian Hellman is the author of the play, and the movie is available on Amazon, so it's pretty easy for everyone to get. But that one again, it's once again a fact of people went to the Facebook group and they were just sending us your ideas, and we really appreciate that. So follow us in all those places that I mentioned before. We do check everything. Our email, once again, is bookversusmoviepodcast@gmail.com. And please, if you like this show, please just give us a follow. Be sure to subscribe. It means the world to us. Tell a friend about the show. That's how it goes.
That's our favorite, is when you tell somebody about it. We really appreciate it. Margo, where can they find you on the internet?
You could find me on Twitter, as long as that still exists, at Brooklyn Margo. My site is Brooklyn Fit Chick. My Instagram is Brooklyn Fit Chick. And then my TikTok is at Margo Donohue, and that's DONOHUE. Where can they find you?
You can find me online at coloniabook.com. I also what's up? I don't know. We'll see what happens with Twitter. But all of my social media, including TikTok, which I don't even do, but I just have my handle there, is She's Not Your Mama. And we will be back next time with Little Foxes.
Thank you so much for listening to the Book versus Movie podcast. We are a part of the Frolic Podcast Network. You can find more podcasts you will love at frolic.media/podcasts. We follow the hashtags LadyPodSquad and Podern Family. If you want to support the show, you can go to our Patreon page, go to Patreon, and look for Book versus Movie Podcast. We have a basic Facebook page, but we also have a private Facebook group. Go to Facebook and type in Book vs. Movie Podcast group if you want to join that. You can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Book versus Movie. Spell all those words out. If you'd like to send us an email, it's bookversusmoviepodcast, spelled it all out, @gmail.com. You can follow Margot D at Brooklyn Fit Chick on social media and Margot P at She's Nacho Mama. Thanks so much again for checking out our show, and we'll be back soon